Thank you for that.
Good.
I'll go back to the beginning and I'll start with explaining to those who are unfamiliar with us about GFI. So we are a nonprofit think tank. We are powered by philanthropy, and we are working to transform the global food system, making it better for the planet, people, and animals by advancing alternative proteins. Today, we'll be diving into an emerging subcategory, bridging the gap between conventional meat and plant-based alternative, the blended meat sector. We'll learn about current market trends, developments, and consumer demand. And later, we'll hear directly from two industry leaders, Paul Shapiro, the co-founder and CEO of the Better Meat Co., and Shalom, founder and CEO of Mush Foods. They will share their experiences and insights into this space's opportunities, challenges, and best practices. So again, thank you very much to everyone, to our speakers, and to everyone who joined. And I hope that today's webinar leaves you with valuable insights on how this innovation can lead to a more sustainable future for all. So before we dive into the presentation, let's define what we at GFI mean by blended and hybrid products in the context of alternative proteins. Blended products, as we refer to them, combine animal meat with alternative protein components like plant-based protein or mycoprotein. At GFI, we use the term hybrid products to describe a mix of alternative proteins across different pillars without any inclusion of conventional animal meat. For example, a blend of cultivated and plant-based meat. Of course, there are others that may use these terms differently, sometimes calling blended products hybrids, plant-rich, or flex meat. But for today's session, this is how we'll be framing the discussion. So why blended meat? The alternative protein industry has grown rapidly and has a bright future ahead. So today, most consumers are still meat eaters. Flexitarianism continues to rise as a global trend, but meat eaters' taste and texture preferences are key, and blended products, by retaining that familiar experience, offer another way to reduce meat consumption. Finally, the popularity of blended products driven by startups and established players introducing new offerings is a clear signal that consumers are open to new options. All of this points to a strategic opportunity. Blended meat serves as a half step toward alternative protein adoption, revitalizing the market by offering a middle ground. So why blended meat products are seen by some as a bridge that offer a new opportunity? They provide incremental benefits like health and sustainability, which make many consumers seek. They also act as a transitional step, making it easier for people who aren't ready to switch fully to alternative proteins. By offering a more familiar product experience in terms of taste and texture, blended meat products reduce the hesitation some consumers have about trying alternative proteins at all and lower the barriers to adoption. Blended meat is increasingly seen as a lasting and practical solution to reducing meat consumption, and this approach is supported by many leaders across this industry. I've included two quotes here as examples by CEOs of Choppy and Core, though there are many more. Today, we'll also hear directly from two industry leaders, Paul and Shalom, about their perspectives. The potential target audiences for blended meat products are quite broad and diverse. These are flexitarians who follow mostly vegetarian diet but occasionally consume meat, health-conscious consumers, for example, parents who want their children to eat more vegetables, environmentally conscious consumers looking for more eco-friendly food options, innovators and early adopters who love to embrace the latest innovative trends within the food industry, or families and beauty professionals looking for convenient meal solutions that offer a complete nutritional profile. Blended meat products offer several benefits compared to conventional meat. They provide a more complete amino acid profile and higher nutritional value. They have lower levels of saturated fat and cholesterol and also offer added fiber. They deliver a moister texture and richer flavor. They require fewer resources like land, water, and energy to produce, and they help reduce reliance on industrialized animal agriculture. Speaking of environmental benefits that are also relevant to blended meat, I'd like to highlight insights from GFI's latest report, Transforming Land Use. This analysis, conducted with Highland Economics, shows that diversifying the US protein supply with 50% alternative proteins could lead to very substantial changes, significantly enhancing land restoration, supporting ecosystem recovery, and reducing carbon emissions. And this report is, of course, available on gfi.org. Blended meat products can be offered in many different ratios, categories, and combinations. Blends of vegetables and meat are usually presented as a healthier final product compared to meat, encouraging the intake of vegetables while enhancing the familiar taste of meat. I included 2 examples here of the many products on the market. The first one, both 50-50 burger, mixes beef with a blend of roasted mushrooms and garlic, caramelized onions, broccoli, and cauliflower. And Phil's finest sausages and ground mixes are equal parts meat and vegetables with different kinds of spices. Products blending plant-based proteins with meat are usually presented as offering a better nutritional value with diversified protein sources. A few years ago, Tyson launched its raised and rooted brand featuring the bland burger consisting of beef and pea protein. Tyson has since pivoted the brand to a fully plant-based line of products. And Perdue Farms Chicken Plus line contains the Better Meat Co. legacy plant protein ingredients and is one of the most popular items on the market today. Paul will be able to share more details. Blending mycelium mycoproteins with meat aims to mimic and enhance the taste, texture, and experience of conventional meat. Under this category, which we see in the middle, we have our speakers today. The Better Meat Co. offers Rhiza mycoprotein, and Mush Foods provides various mycelium blends. Shalom and Paul will elaborate more later. Let's dive into different blending proportions for blended meat products. Equal or almost equal. This involves a balanced mix of animal and alternative proteins, such as a 50-50 blend. Most products in the blended meat space today offer a balanced proportion. For example, Harvest Bee, an Australian startup known for its range of plant proteins, recently launched a new line, Meat Plus. This is a 50-50 ratio of beef or lamb with a soy and wheat protein blend. Harvest Bee's innovation is in combining different plant protein structures in a unique way to enable the creation of whole pieces like diced beef or lamb. Majority alternative protein. In the second approach, alternative proteins make up the majority of the product, with meat added to influence taste and texture. An example is chopping, which started under the name Pole Table, incorporated under Momentum Foods. The founders, who come from Beyond Meat and Plenty, say they entered the blended meat space with a reducitarian mindset. Their products contain 90% plant protein and 10% animal byproducts, including beef tallow, bone broth, and collagen. Now let's take a look at the latest product developments from just the last few months. 3 major industry players entered the blended meat space: Quorn, Nestle, and Lidl. Quorn, a leader in the UK meatless category, is blending its fungi-based protein with beef and pork for products like burgers and sausages. Nestle has launched Rin de Carne in Chile, a plant-based minced meat designed to be blended with beef. And in August, Lidl introduced its first blended meat product in the Netherlands, combining 60% beef with 40% pea protein. What's notable that both Nestle and Lidl are positioning these products as more affordable options while delivering on sustainability and health benefits. For any company considering entering the blended meat space, understanding consumer demand is key. There are more and more reports on this topic, and I've included 5 of them to briefly explore this in this presentation. To summarize their findings, there is a clear interest and potentially strong demand for blended products if they can meet consumer expectations. Like plant-based meat, blended products are seen as healthier, better for the environment, and more ethical than conventional meat. Health is the top motivator for most consumers, while sustainability appeals more to younger generations. Achieving price parity with conventional meat, delivering on taste and texture, and effectively communicating these benefits are all key to growing this category. So let's dive into these reports. The first one is from ADM. ADM conducted a global consumer insight report in March 2024 and released its findings in a paper called The Buzz on Blends. The report states that 88% of global consumers believe it's healthier to get protein from a wider variety of sources. To help consumers achieve this, the report suggests to introduce more blended meat products, which harness the benefits of both plant and animal-based proteins. ADM also offer their services to companies entering the blended meat sector, including assistance with idea generation, ingredients sourcing, product creation, and innovation partnerships. The Power of Meat 2023 report was published by the U.S. Food Industry Association and the Foundation for Meat and Poultry Research and Education. It found that 33% of U.S. meat eaters are actively trying to reduce their meat consumptions. As you can see on the chart on the right, meat consumers preparing blended items at home at least every few weeks rose from 31% in 2022 to 47% in 2023. The report also found that when buying meat or poultry, 62% are looking for products that are better for their health, and about 1/3 consider animal welfare, the planet, and social responsibility. 2023 Plant Forward Opportunity Report was published by Data Essential in collaboration with the Culinary Institute of America, Food for Climate League, and the Main Use of Change University Research Collaborative. It found that mixing animal and plant proteins has the highest appeal among millennial, Gen X, and high-income consumers, while among general population, 60% are willing to try blended meat dishes. GFI APAC conducted a report exploring the attitudes of consumers in Southeast Asia regarding both plant-based and conventional meat. It found out that the overall interest is very high. 93% of consumers are interested in trying blended meat products, appealing to both current plant-based meat consumers and those uninterested in purely plant-based options. It also discovered that Southeast Asian consumers prefer protein diversity over complete meat replacement, meaning that blended meat could serve as middle ground. And last but not least, Nectar, an initiative of food system innovation aimed at accelerating the protein transition, released the Taste of the Industry 2024 report a few months ago. The report is based on insights from more than 1,000 Americans omnivores who evaluated 45 plant-based meat products. It also covered the blended meat space by tasting a blended meat burger. The blended burger scores significantly higher in consumer preference compared to the top plant-based burger. And stay tuned, because next week, FSI will release their next report, featuring the largest publicly available sensory analysis, which will explore the taste potential of 9 categories of blended meat products. Now, if you have any questions, feel free to write them down in our Q&A session, and we'll make sure to address them in the end. Now that we've reviewed key consumer insights and market trends, and right before our panel, let's shift focus to the industry practices of launching blended meat products. The blended meat products have a risk of becoming a niche product category. For example, for blend-based consumers, the introduction of animal ingredients feels counterintuitive. Flexitarians may experience consumer hesitancy due to perceived compromises in taste and price. The act of blending can also create a perception of lesser quality. This is why clearly defining your consumer segment and tailoring your messaging to their needs, preferences, and hesitations is crucial. It's important to establish a compelling value proposition and communicate the advantages of the products clearly, including in packaging. Placing the product in the right places in stores will maximize visibility and sales, ensuring it reaches the right audience. There is a lot to discuss regarding marketing strategies, including challenges, past examples, and their outcomes. However, to ensure we have enough time for our panel discussion, we'll briefly cover the key messaging strategies for blended meat recommended by the industry experts. Please note that these strategies may vary by geographical region, and different messaging may be more effective in certain countries than in others. So keep this in mind while we proceed. First, present your products as superior meat options rather than less meat alternatives. Use positive terms like enhanced and enriched to convey the benefits. Sometimes it will be more effective to focus on taste, while at other times, emphasizing health benefits may resonate better, depending on the audience. In terms of nutrition, always important to emphasize its superiority without compromising on taste or other qualities. And of course, clearly communicate the role of alternative proteins as essential ingredients. Avoid positioning them as just fillers in communications to prevent damaging the perception of the entire sector. We can summarize by saying that there is an untapped market opportunity here worth exploring. It is still a nascent market. Through partnerships and collaborations between different entities and companies, by innovating and differentiating from conventional meat or purely plant-based products. In many regions, as Israel, for example, there is a potential to lead in this market and benefit from a first mover advantage. This is it, and thank you. For any questions following this webinar, you're welcome to contact me directly by email, which you can see here. And now we'll move to our panel. Of course, we'll start by having our speakers briefly introduce themselves and their products. Please,
go ahead, Paul.
would you like to start?
Sure. Well, thank you. It's an honor to be on with you. Greetings to all my brothers and sisters in Israel, and I'm really grateful to the Good Food Institute for organizing us. And it's a real honor to me, for me, to be on also with Shalom, who is like my brother from another mother, growing mycelium for meat blending. So I am an admirer of his, and I'm grateful to be on the panel with him. So I'm Paul Shapiro. I'm the CEO and co-founder of the Better Meat Co. We are a B2B ingredients company based in California, and we sell our ingredients primarily to meat companies for them to make better meat. We are not seeking to create our own blended products that we sell. We simply offer them the ability to make their products better with our ingredients. We have, as Eden mentioned, a classic legacy line of plant proteins, fibers, fats, and flavors that we sell to companies like Perdue Farms, which is one of the biggest chicken producers in America. That product is 50% chicken, 50% plant-based. It's sold in 7,100 supermarkets. It's been on the market for 5 years, and I'm proud to say that it was rated as by the Food Network, the TV station, the Food Network, the #1 best tasting frozen chicken nugget in America. So not the best alternative nugget, the best frozen chicken nugget in America. In addition, we also grow mycelium that we sell to meat companies for them to blend into their meat, and we sell the mycelium to alternative meat companies for them to make animal-free meats as well. So I'm looking forward to talking about both of those, but I just want to underscore one thing that Eden said, which is that if blended meats are marketed as a less meat product, I really don't think they will succeed. If they're marketing as an enhanced product, as a better product, as something that you would actually view it as a boost up rather than something sacrificial, I think that they can succeed. And the reason the Perdue product has done so well is because it is marketed as Perdue Chicken Plus. They don't say it's less chicken. They say it's chicken plus all this vegetable nutrition that you want. So let me turn it over to Shalom, and I look forward to talking more in the remaining time as well.
Good to be here. Thanks for the opportunity. I'm Shalom Daniel, the CEO of Mush Foods. Great to be here with Paul. I remember back then when we started to do this. Paul literally did it before, but 3 years ago when I started Mush Foods, people thought that I'm crazy, stupid, or evil. Some of them even call me the devil because I'm going to work with the meat industry, right? And it's good to have, I think it's going to be interesting because we have someone that is dedicated his life to promote better, sustainable food. And you have someone who's eating meat, but also believe we need to reduce it dramatically because we need to do something to save our planet. So yeah, Mush Food, I started Mush Food back in Israel 3 years ago. Right now, the company is located in New York. We're growing in the Hudson Valley, New York, and producing in Richmond, New Jersey, and Vermont. What Mush Food is doing, the first series of products we launched called 50 Cut, specifically for the food service and the industry market. So it's a B2B company. What we're doing, we are actually selling our product for different meat producers and meat processors and food service companies in order to reduce high amounts of meat within meat products. That's the only thing we are focusing in right now. And we believe that this way, eventually we'll see more products like the Perdue chicken nuggets on shelf because when these meat producers have the demand and companies like us, like Better Meat Co., like, by the way, I see here another names. I see here Andrew from both 50/50, and I see Parendi that also works on something like this here in the attendees. So good to have you guys. And if we are all going to work together to promote this market in different channels, I'm sure we are going to see much more products on shelf very soon.
Thank you very much. You briefly touched this, but I would like you to emphasize it. What motivated your entry into the blended meat space specifically? What opportunities or challenges influenced your decision?
Well, as Shalom mentioned, I would love to see a world in which animals were not viewed as mere commodities. At the same time, meat demand is going up, not down. Meat demand is going up in Asia. It's going up in the Middle East. It's going up in Latin America. Even in Western Europe and most countries in the United States, meat demand is pretty much at an all-time high. And I'm sad to say that even in Israel, meat demand is nearly at an all-time high. And so as a pragmatist who wants to try to ameliorate many of the problems that the meat industry is causing, I recognize that the goal needs to be progress. And I'll give you one short story to illuminate what that progress could look like. In the United States, if you go to Burger King right now, every single Burger King in the United States has the Impossible Whopper. It's quite good. I like it. However, according to news articles, the best-selling Burger Kings for Impossible have 2% of the burger sales as Impossible Whoppers. That's pretty good. 2% is the Impossible. Now, imagine that in addition to offering the Impossible Whopper, that Burger King also took its conventional Whopper and made it, let's say, 20% not meat, whether they're going to be using the mycelium from Better Meat Co. or Mush Foods or something else, just 20% not meat. All of a sudden, rather than a 2% reduction in beef demand, you get a 20% reduction in beef demand, and you don't require anybody to make that different choice. They don't have to order something else that they would have ordered. And so by making hybrid the default option, you actually achieve the mission of groups like the Good Food Institute and Mush Foods and Better Meat Co. far more than if you solely offered the plant-based option. Now, that doesn't mean we shouldn't offer plant-based options, quite the opposite. There should be more of them. But considering the fact that tens of billions of animals with absolute certainty are going to be used for food in the years to come, why not do what we can to reduce the number of them who will be used by offering the major players a way to use fewer animals? That's really the goal of what we're seeking to do. And so I don't view it as a half step. In fact, I view it as a bigger step than some of the other work that is going on.
Agree. And if I can raise to the bet that Paul put on the table right now, imagine two things. Okay, first story. We started with 50 cut as an additional burger, okay, right next to the regular burger in some locations, like Farmers and Chef Restaurant and Brown University here in the States. And after a few months that they saw that students and diners are willing to buy, listen to this number, 3 times more, sometimes even 4 times more of the blended burger than the regular burger. By the way, from the same attributes we mentioned before, right? People are not stupid. They understand that now if they're having a burger, that 50% of it's mushrooms, okay, or good resource of vegetable. It doesn't have to be only mushrooms or mycelium, right? They understand it's better for them, right? So this specific two accounts, two clients, moved away the regular burger, and right now they're selling only the blended burger. Okay, so as Paul said, it's a process, it's a transition. Okay, and it's a way to a more plant-based or plant-forward food system and meat products, right? And if I can raise also another time, I mean, from one hand, yes, sometimes we're talking about cutting the amount of the meat that we're buying or going to consume. But you know what? Look at it from the other hand. Sometimes when people ask me, Shalom, what's the pain point, right? What the problem, the global problem you're trying to solve? Let's put the cows and the planet aside for a second, not because it's not important. It's the most important thing, but just because sometimes people, perceive it in a different way. Let's talk about the meat industry itself. They have a huge problem, okay? There's draft all over, okay? They don't have enough feeding. The prices, look at it. Go to the USDA prices. It's public numbers, okay? Every week, every month, the prices are higher and higher and higher, okay? And if we want to look at it from a perspective of even food safety, right? And how much food we have in the world, and do we have enough, protein and food to feed the growing population? The answer is no. So instead of look at it of, okay, let's reduce a lot of meat consumption, we can also double the meat we have without more suffering and without more deforestation. All right. So there's, another angle just to give you to think of.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Now we have many startups here with us that are not in the blended meat space currently. And I would like to ask, how can a plant-based or fermentation startup identify opportunities to create or contribute to successful marketing offers of the blended meat products?
Well, not all of them have to. Many of these startups may not want to, either for ideological reasons that Shalom alluded to, or because it's just not in their business model. These are not exclusive of one another. It's kind of like asking, or it's kind of like wondering, what can the electric vehicle market do to promote hybrid vehicles? They're just two markets. Some people want a hybrid car and some people want an electric car. And I hope that one day it all goes electric. We'll see if that happens. But they're different. Now, to answer your question, if there is a company that wants to get involved, they can do what Shalom and I are doing and try to sell ingredients, whether plant-based or fermented, to the meat companies for them to blend. There are ample opportunities right now. As I mentioned, I typed a response to one of the questions in the Q&A, but I'll just say it here as well. Right now, plant-based meat, those of us who live in this world, we feel like it's everywhere, but it's almost nowhere. Plant-based meat is still less than 1% of the total volume of meat that is produced in the United States, and I presume the same is so in Israel, although I don't know. But it's not like hybrid vehicles or electric vehicles today, which are actually taking up meaningful portions of the auto market. It's not like plant-based milk, which is now 15% of the fluid milk market. It's less than 1%. Less than 1% of the meat by volume is plant-based. And so there's just a vast world of meat out there that we can hybridize. It does not have to be done where products that are meat are solely meat. And one of the big benefits of hybridizing is, especially if you make it the default, as opposed to a special product that people need to purchase, but if you make it the default option, you have enormous gains. And I'll give you an example. It's kind of a strained analogy because there are problems with it that I'll make clear. But if you look right now, if you're in the United States and you put gasoline in your car, every single time, by law, the gasoline that you're putting in your car is 10 to 15% not gasoline, it's ethanol. And so blended fuel is now the norm in the United States, and that has prevented billions of gallons of gasoline from being put into cars. Now, the reason it's a strained analogy is because it's not so clear that ethanol is really better than gasoline. It's probably not actually, but the premise is still the same, that they made blended fuel the norm in the country. Now, I doubt there's going to be a law that makes blending meat the norm, but we can do it by default with a story like what I mentioned at Burger King or elsewhere, where if you can get, like in food service institutions, to make blended the norm as a default, either marketed or as a stealth health product that isn't even marketed, I think there's real opportunities for us here to proceed.
Mm-hmm. To add to that, and I will try to answer some questions that I see here, also imagine that all the examples that we talked till now, okay, electricity, vehicles, I mean, who cares? It's just a button, right, that I'm turning on and off. Who cares where the source or where the energy comes from, right? When we're talking about food, and this is why it's much more challenging, food is not functional. I mean, come on, we're not eating only when we're hungry and when I need this, I don't know, 100 grams of protein or carbs or whatever, right? We're eating because it's social. We're eating, it's tradition. It's sometimes even religious, right? It's so many other things than only functional, that in order to change the habits for people, we need to do it in a way that this transition phase will be relevant for them and will give them direct benefits, right? And let's face it, we are a very egoistic creature. I'm talking about ourselves, right? Human beings. We mainly care about something if it's hurting us or our loved ones, right? There's only few people in the world that care about something bigger than themselves, and they're dedicating their life for it, and, or willing to change their habits. This is why, and I see some questions about how you feel that we can promote it on a better way. So you mentioned already, Eden, some of the things of how to promote it. I believe that starting from out-of-home dining, okay, it's also a good start, because every time when you want to promote a new concept and everything, usually it's better for people to see it somewhere else before you're winning on shelf. Retail is always very hard. I see here questions about kosher and maybe even halal. Let's mention this as well. All the products that I'm sure that Paul also do it, can be kosher and halal. It's easy because we don't have any dairy or any other stuff inside, so it's easy. But then what is relevant is actually what kind of animal protein you're using. We started with a question if others should join. Yes, please join us. Your success is our success, and it works. I don't know even one brand that controlling the whole world in the food system in one category, right? It's so big. It's so big. Please join us if it makes sense, okay? If it makes sense in terms of the business and also in terms of the benefits, because let's face it, no one wants to go back to fillers that most of them are a lot of ingredients that no one wants, right? If you're doing something clean that can act as a binder, like Paul is doing, like I know, Quorn can do, and now started to work on it, etc., then do it. Join us. I hope there will be more brands that will work with it, and maybe we can do even something together. Right now, we are working with a Cultivate Meat company, right? It's also meat. I mean, and I wish we can bring it as fast as we can, because that's a real game changer, okay? And if we can help as ingredients that market into the meat industry, to help them as enablers to come to the market faster, cheaper, okay, more relevant, and without using all kind of ingredients and binders that people don't like, to bring a more, by the way, I see the Clean Meat book that I love in the background, a more clean, cultivate meat products, right? Let's do it. That's also a huge opportunity.
Thank you, Shalom. And speaking of these partnerships and opportunities, what do you think the partnerships between startups, newly established startups, and established food companies, how can they develop this sector or scale blended meat products?
Well, one of the nice things about being a B2B ingredient company is that you don't have to get everything right yourself. You don't have to do the marketing, the branding, the packaging, the slotting fees. You just leave that to the big corporate CPGs. I'll give you an example. When the Better Meat Co. began selling to Purdue Farms, the product that now, as I said, has been on the market for 5 years, we had 3 employees. I don't mean the founders plus 3 employees. I mean 3 total people, myself, my friend Joanna, and my friend Adam. That was it. That was the entirety. We didn't even have an office. In fact, the first time that Purdue came to visit us, we had to rent a hotel conference room to meet with them because we didn't want them to see where we actually worked from. And so, and we accomplished that with having nearly no resources. We developed a product that was really good. We were working out of a co-man kitchen, basically. And we had one of our employees is a full-time food scientist, and he developed this really great product. And it went through about 17 different iterations with Purdue, testing it back and forth. And then finally came on one that worked really, really well. It seamlessly blended into their chicken nuggets. You couldn't see, taste, or tell the difference. In fact, even though it had less saturated fat, less cholesterol, and fewer calories, it tasted actually better, not just the same and indistinguishable, actually better than the conventional Purdue chicken nugget. And with very few resources or people, we were able to then launch a product that went into thousands of markets because we were using a co-manufacturer to produce it. And the real work on our end was simply building the relationship with Purdue, giving them the confidence that we were a good partner to rely on, and having the food science background to make it happen. Now, what we're doing today is far more complex than what we were doing back then, but it's a good example of how a very small startup worked with a multi-billion-dollar legacy company to launch a product that is by far the most successful of the blended products in the market. Now, I hope what Shalom said turns out to be true, that there are other people who come out and do even better things. I hope that there are new companies founded that will do way more than what we are doing. I would love for them to be so good that they leave us in their dust. That would be fantastic. So if you're thinking about getting into this space and you want to compete, I couldn't agree more with Shalom. Please do it. We want to see a vibrant industry that is creating a field of excellence for all of us.
Thank you for this amazing stories. Shalom, anything to share?
Yeah, I'm to add and maybe some try to add here. Look, it's so different talking about startups and corporates in the same time. Okay, and I'm saying it as someone who used to work for Unilever almost a decade, so I know how corporate is, right? It's so different. In corporate, you can work 3, 4, 5 years on a project and then delist it in 2 days because whatever, someone changed in the management, or I don't know, the wind is changing a bit and someone decided to delist it. And this is sometimes what happens with new concept and innovation with this corporate. I truly believe that sometimes smaller companies and startups like us can achieve a better penetration, better market share, and change. But then we need these corporates to follow. We need this corporate to come and work with us, right? Because startup, it's nice. We can scale very fast in the beginning of the technology and the solution and even some production and operation. But then it's very hard to scale on a global or even national wide, right? And this is why we need this big corporates and food companies to join us. The way we are trying to do it is to work with a push and pull strategy. I have a team that's working on the demand creation, and I have a team that works on the revenues and the sales and the business development. Why it's so hard? And I saw one of you here. Oh, it's an anonymous attendee, so I don't know who you are, but you will know that I'm referring to you. They ask, what is the main challenges, right, of the blended meat or this category? One of the biggest challenges is how to convince these guys like Purdue, okay, to do such things. Some of them tried and failed, okay? Some of them are saying, hey, I mean, I'm doing my stuff and it's working and, you know, I'm profitable and I'm growing. Why fixing something that's not broken, right? These are all thoughts that sometimes incorporates and these big meat manufacturers, this is how they see the world. So I believe that bringing the demand for them, I will give you a small example. Calling to the VP of wellness and nutrition in a high-tech company, okay, here in the States, that in the end saying, I want it, I don't know, I don't care how, okay, and he refers us to Petal Freda, Rochester Meat, Compass Group, whatever, okay, to whoever they're buying the meat from and asking for it, that's the way to go, all right? Because then you're bringing the demand to these big companies, and the minute you are in, the minute they're starting to work with you, it only makes sense for them to try and launch it in different channels, also maybe in retail in the future with their own brand, right? As long as you are not stepping on their toes. So I believe that's the way, and this is why we choose to do it in a more B2B ingredient phase.
So thank you, Shalom, for talking about the creation of the demand. But if we speak about the final consumers, what do you think are the marketing and distribution strategies that are most effective to reaching the final consumer with these blended meat products?
Well, as alluded to earlier, I think that the products have to be marketed as a better meat product, not as a less meat product. And I'll give you an example. Imagine that you go to a juice store, like a Jamba Juice or something like that, and they ask you, do you want to boost your smoothie with matcha or hemp seeds or protein powder or something that you perceive as an enhancement, right? You pay more to get that, and you don't perceive yourself as getting a less smoothie. You're not getting less smoothie, right? The volume of the smoothie is the same, but you perceive yourself as getting a better smoothie, something that has been enhanced with something else that wasn't in there before. That is what the marketing needs to be for these types of meats. If they are marketed, they need to be marketed as an enhanced meat. Shalom mentioned the F word earlier, fillers, right? Like, it can't be viewed as a filler or a dilution agent. It has to be seen as something that is so good that you would actively seek it out because you believe it is better. Or it shouldn't be marketed at all. It could be a stealth health product where you say nothing, where you might go, you might have your child go to school and they go to the cafeteria and they're serving burgers and they eat the burgers and that's the end of the story. They happen to be enhanced with some type of plant or fungi-based ingredient, but nobody mentions it. It's just part of the burger. So I would say either an enhancement or stealth health.
I will give you another angle, okay? And sorry if I'm going to piss someone off. But when asking about marketing, there's so many different ways to market it, right? There's so many different brands you can build around it and so many different target audience. In the end, we will need to attack in each one of the angles. Small story, and then we'll come back to a specific marketing strategy that I think can work. And please, don't call me chauvinist. I have 4 girls, right? I'm only trying to give you like a perspective here. Back then, when the hybrid car started, okay, you know who was the first innovators and first adopters? It was a second car in the family specifically for females, right? Specifically for the mom, okay? Why? A lot of different reasons. Saving the planet wasn't one of them, okay? No, maybe it was the story, okay, that this, females tell for the outside world, but it was because it reduced the anxiety level by 30% from the same reason, okay, that stupid monkey males like us didn't want to touch these cars, right? We wanted to feel the engine, to hear the noise, the vibration of the wheels and everything. And for the females, it was a more smooth and calm and fun driving. Okay. What I'm trying to say is you can market this as something that is even better for you in terms of the diet. Okay. Imagine how many calories and saturated fat you can save by doing blendings, right? You can do it with functional ingredients like, by the way, mycelium, mushrooms, or other vegetables to enhance, as Paul said, and make the food as your medicine. Okay, you can have a lion's mane rememberger burger. Okay, you can have a boost burger with cordyceps or different other ingredients inside. So there's so many ways how to promote it and do the marketing and the promotion side that I don't think there's only one solution. It's definitely talking about the goodies, okay? But it will be also marketing to specific target audiences. For example, the category that is so big now for kids, right? With the dinosaur shape nuggets.
Thank you so much. And I'll ask a last question very quickly, and then we will let our audience to ask more. We talked a lot about opportunities, but what risks do you see for the blended meat sector, and how do you see this space evolving over the next 3-5 years?
I've learned to be more humble in predictions. My predictions have been very bad. I made predictions about when I thought cultivated meat would be on the market in a more meaningful way that turned out to be wrong. I have made presidential predictions, including in 2015 when I said to my friend that I had a better chance of becoming president than Donald Trump. I was obviously wrong. So I don't really like to make that many predictions because I've learned that I really just am bad at it. However, I will say what I hope happens, and that is the following. Right now, meat demand just continues to inexorably rise. As I said earlier, it's going up all over the world. What can we do to actually stem that? It seems like people eat about as much meat as they possibly can afford. As hundreds of millions of people escape poverty in Asia and elsewhere, they eat more meat. Now, obviously, we want people to escape poverty. That is excellent and a great aim for humanity. And we cannot ignore the reality that when people escape poverty and join the middle class, they have a much heavier footprint on the planet, part of which is from eating more meat. So can we help achieve both goals, improving the plight of humanity while not increasing our degradation of the planet? And I think that a clear way to do that is to let people have the meat that they crave, but make it much more light on the planet by reducing the number of animals who are used for meat. It will not solve all of the problems, and it's not in lieu of creating excellent meat alternatives from plant-based and fungi-based and cultivated. We need those, and in fact, we need them to happen a lot faster than they are happening. But we should not let perfection be the enemy of progress. We should make sure that we have lots of options on the table. Just in the same way that we need to get ourselves off of fossil fuels, and we don't do that by putting everything on wind or everything on solar or everything on geothermal or everything on nuclear, right? There's lots of different ways to get energy without fossil fuels. Similarly, we need lots of alternatives to the factory farming of animals, from plant-based to cultivated to hybrid and more. Maybe there's others. Maybe there'll be algal. I don't know. Maybe there'll be something else. But there's lots of ways that we can do this, and we're going to need all of them because we don't know what's going to work. So I believe that in the future, protein will no longer be synonymous with a hunk of flesh from a slaughtered animal's body, and rather protein will be a far more diverse definition that includes proteins from plants, from animal cells, from fungi, combinations of it, and so on.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. And you both were very active with answering questions during the webinar simultaneously, even in writing. That's great. And I want to use the last few minutes to answer the remaining questions. Please, we can go to the Q&A session, Paul and Shalom, and we'll see a question from Shmuel. How is developing blended products relates to crises like COVID pandemic or iron source? How could it, and I assume, contribute to the solution of the problems evolving from these crises?
Look, I think, and again, I hope I can understand this question correctly. We saw that during the pandemic, when you're just outsourcing everything and importing foods, we saw how much is affecting on the more local, geography. A lot of countries had, left without enough food or didn't have the variety of everything. Okay, so again, I'm not sure if what we're trying to do here is mainly to answer on this, but it definitely can help. All right, when you have a source, a plant, a facility that can produce high protein with high nutrition products, and when something happens, you can work with it to solve these kinds of problems. I can say it's great. To tell you the truth, I don't believe in it, because in the end, people will want to eat what they're usually eating. So in order to overcome this kind of crisis, again, I think we need to try to put this blended approach and more planned forward ingredients on a daily basis, and not only when there's some threats like this. I saw another question talking about why using mycelium and not other ingredients, or why using mycelium and not using mushrooms or fruiting bodies or stuff like that, that I want to answer about this. First, no one said mycelium is the best thing. Go do whatever you want, right? If you can find a different source that will do the work, make it happen, okay? I believe that because the efficiency and specifically the nutritional values of the mycelium and the umami and the flesh-like texture and everything, it's a good blend to meat. But again, you can do it with so many other things. Don't just focus on this one. The reason why working with mycelium and not with mushrooms, my answer is quite simple. Go to the retail store and see how much it costs to use fresh mushrooms per pound, okay? The price is twice, sometimes even 3 times more than ground beef, all right? And it refers to another question that someone asked here about prices. Yes, I believe every solution we're working on, if we want it to be sustainable for long term and to make a change, it has to be at least in the same price parity as meat. Otherwise, we are hurting our opportunities to grow, okay? So the reason why mycelium and not regular mushrooms, it's because we know how to grow it in a much more efficient and cheaper way. And this way, we're enabling the meat processors and the meat distributors to work with our ingredients, okay? We are working on a more modern agricultural way of growing. I know Paul and other companies is working in a more industrial facilities that can work day and night, okay, to produce more and more ingredients. So in the end, or even in the beginning, yes, taste and everything, but you must nail the unit economics, okay? If the unit economics don't work, I'm sorry, it's not going to happen.
Yeah, so I agree with what Shalom is saying, and we'll just conclude by saying the following on this. One of the problems for plant-based meat is that it's dramatically more expensive than animal-based meat. It's not that it's 30 or 40%. It's often like 300 or 400% more expensive. My wife and I were in Safeway recently, which is a chain grocery store here, and the Beyond Burgers were 2 patties that are both a quarter pound for $8.99. That means for per pound, it's $18. Compare that to ground beef patties, which are about $4.50. So, you're talking like 300 or 400% more expensive. And that is going to sentence this category to being a niche product. I do believe that there are ways to make mycelium in such a way that it can compete on cost. And that's not just because of our own financial projections at the Better Meat Co. of what we think we can achieve. It's based on my real life experience going and visiting the UK. If you go to Quorn, Quorn, which sells 99% of the mycelium that's sold on the planet, Quorn has 5 150,000 liter bioreactors. They're each 40 meters tall. So, we think, those of us in this space, we think of like 1,000 liters as a really big bioreactor, right? Because that's in the cultivated meat space, that's big. But in the fungal fermentation space, the hurdles are much lower, and so you can do a lot bigger. So again, Quorn has 5 150,000 liter bioreactors churning out at every single second, 24 hours a day, a river of mycelium that they sell. And I went to KFC in London, and the KFC product, the Quorn product on the KFC menu, is essentially at price parity, not identical, but essentially identical to the price of a chicken patty at KFC. And so here you have food grown in a bioreactor, mycelium being grown at an industrial scale competing on cost, not with beef, but with the lowest cost meat, chicken, in a fast food setting. Now, I don't know what corn's margin is on the product. I'm guessing it's got to be low, but the point is that it can be done of mycelium, because other ingredients so far that I've tested at least don't do as well. Now, if somebody comes up with something better, great. It would be a lot easier than what we're doing. As Shalom mentioned, we're using industrial processes that are a lot of capital expenditures associated with them. So I would much rather find some lower tech way to do this. It would be preferable. So maybe somebody here will figure out that path and will render what we are doing obsolete. I haven't figured it out though.
Okay, so our time is almost over, and maybe you can take a quick look on the unanswered questions, Paul and Shalom, and see if you have anything.
I saw Neil here asking what's the inputs needed to grow in mycelium. So basically, like any organism, the mushroom mycelium needs nutrition. What's good in it, and it's good news, it can take it from the garbage, right? Paul, for example, is using, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, waste from starch from potatoes. We're using waste from different upcycled from the food waste like soy and beer and wood chips, etc. So there's different ways. They need, nitrogen, sugar, the regular stuff that we as organism needs. I saw 2 questions regarding legal and regulation and novel foods, etc. That's an issue that, by the way, we are all tackling together, just to show you how much we're talking about one is each other's friends and colleagues and even brothers. We have an association for the mycoprotein and the mycelium association that we all work together in order to address these kinds of challenges that we have in some countries, not everywhere, by the way. Europe is usually more tough, but hey, we already have companies that are doing it. We have the processes and the ability to make our products fit in terms of the here in the FDA and the GRAS and the novel ingredients and products also in Europe. Some of them already there, some of them it's in process, but it's definitely something that we are working on. What else? Did I miss something?
There was one question about the different species of mycelium and what different effects they have, and I'll just point out there are thousands of species that you can use, and it would be kind of like saying, well, what are the different effects of different species of plants? Well, there's thousands of plants. There's corn, there's wheat, there's soy, there's chickpeas. They all have different flavors and different textures and different nutritional profiles. When people think about plant protein, they don't think about one thing. Similarly, different animal species, when you eat them, they have different tastes and textures, right? Like beef is very different from chicken, which is very different from fish, and so on. And the same is so here. Like when people think about mycelium, they think about one thing, right? They're like, oh, there's mycelium, and that's one thing. And that may be justifiable because corn has dominated the mycelium market for so long, and they have one species that they use. But there are now a whole crop of startups, including Mush and Better Meat Co., that are doing a variety of different species that have different nutritional profiles, different flavors, different colors, different textures. I think that what Shalom is doing is mixing multiple species together actually to get pretty unique characteristics. And so there's a lot of opportunity out there. We've barely scratched the surface when it comes to harnessing the power of fungi for these purposes. And I look forward to a world in which we have as diverse an amount of fungi proteins in our diet as we do plant proteins. I mean, every day you probably consume protein from soybeans and from wheat and from, if you're eating hummus, chickpeas, and maybe you're eating lentil soup, like that's 4 different plant proteins all in one day. And that's probably a low number. And the same should be so for fungi proteins. And so we're working to make that happen.
Just to give you a small anecdote, okay? If I will ask all of you, all the attendees, to name as much plants, which is trees, flowers, vegetables, fruits, all this, I'm sure you can come up with probably around 100, okay, or at least a few dozens. If I will ask you to name different species of fungi, how many you can get? Most of you, even the most educational attendees we have here. 10, maybe? Not even, right? But there's actually 6 times more species of fungi in the world than all the plant kingdom together. So yeah, that's interesting. We're trying to know as many as we can, but it's huge.
Means
Right.
there is a bright future ahead.
Totally.
Somebody else will find a new species and do better than what we're doing.
Thank you. Thank you again so much to our speakers. It was very inspiring, and I personally enjoyed listening to your experiences a lot. I learned a lot. And thank you to everyone who joined. And I hope that you got valuable insights and that you were inspired to learn more about innovation in this space. I'm sorry if your question wasn't answered. All of us can be contacted on LinkedIn and myself personally by email that was written here in the chat. So again, I wish you a nice day if you're in the States and a nice evening if you're here in Israel. And I hope to see you again.
Thank you for the opportunity. I put my email also in the chat. If someone wants to reach directly, feel free through LinkedIn or my email. And I hope at least some of you will help us make it happen, make it bigger. Cheers.